The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, you mean Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, I'm your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, lots to get to today. Ohio State Pro Day took place today. And, we build these things up so much so that they can never, ever truly meet the hype of the actual event itself, whether it be the draft, whether it be the combine, free agency, et cetera, et cetera. Although I felt like free agency lived up to the hype this year. But the pro day isn't what it once was, just like the combine isn't what it once was, because the players have so much more control and power over these situations, which I advocate for. If you're not fast and you don't want to run a 40, then don't, right? It makes perfectly good sense, because all we're going to do is tear you to shreds for running slow. So why even bother, right? Let the tape speak for itself, and you stand on business and you move forward, right? And we can sit here and bitch and complain about guys not doing this and not doing that, but at the end of the day, the alternative is we're going to talk shit about you if you don't perform at the level that everyone expects. So I say that I start off this conversation because we're going to talk extensively about these Ohio State players today. I'm going to give you my analysis of each of these guys that I think are an option for the Commanders in the first round, whether they trade back or stick and pick at number 7 overall. But I start the conversation off that way because I made a big stink this morning about whether or not Carnell Tate would run another 40. Would he stand on the 40 time? That was controversial at the NFL Scouting Combine. Did he run a sub 4.5 40? Didn't he? He's not that fast. We know that. He's a strider, right? He's a build-up speed guy. So what was Caleb Downs going to run a 40, right? Because to me, there's no reason for any of the guys that performed at the Combine to do anything here. And I actually was happy to see Arvell Reese go out and do some drills because he didn't have to do anything, right? He already showcased his skills at the combine. So he could have just stood on business and said, hey, I'm just here to just support my teammates, which is what Sonny Styles basically did today. And that's exactly what I would have done, right? But as you can see here, most of these guys opted not to run a 40, right? Again, I'm not knocking it, but it does tell me all that I need to know, right? Again, Caleb Downs wasn't going to blow the 40 away. And so why even do it? So we can nitpick. Why give us a time so we can nitpick, right? Carnell Tate, we already got a time, and we already tore that time to shreds. Why do it again? He's not going to run any faster. He knows it. That's why it's no bother. I got a post here in a second that I'm going to share with you, and again, he said all the right things, right? But as you can see here, no important times, right? All of these guys, again, for the most part, already did their damage at the combine. Igbinosun already ran at the combine. Lorenzo Styles Jr. ran at the combine. Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese all ran at the combine. So it's no reason for those guys. Max Clare, Will Kazmarek, all those guys already ran. Even Carnell Tate already ran at the combine. So we didn't get a vert or a broad or anything from any of these guys that didn't do these things at the combine. So they basically said we're doing on-field work. So that's what this was pretty much all about. So as we go through these guys one by one, I'll give you my thoughts on them as we go through the day. So as we talked about earlier in the day, the full Commanders contingent was on display here in Columbus for the combine. You can see here from our guy David Harrison, who covers the team, does a great job of doing so. You see Lance Newmark there. You see Adam Peters. You see Dan Quinn. So you see the full contingency My guess is, and I can't tell you with 100% certainty, but that guy over there in the white shirt standing up next to DQ is probably David Blau, right? As they are all talking to Carnell Tate. This is after the pro day has taken place. They spent a considerable amount of time, according to David Harrison, chatting it up after the pro day was done. This is standard operating procedure, so don't go crazy with this. But again, it is worth noting that they took the time to go over to Carnell Tate and chop it up with him off to the side. And not every guy did they do this with. Now, they did talk to every single one of the guys that were there in some capacity. But as a collective, I mean, pretty much the entire brass, sans for the defensive coordinator who doesn't need to talk to Carnell Tate, all talking to him at once, you can read into that what you desire. Again, this is just food for thought. You do the dishes, all right? This is just food for thought. You do the dishes. As far as Carnell Tate is concerned, as far as running his 40 at the pro day, this is from Daniel Iafusi, who was at the pro day. Carnell Tate said he considered running the 40-yard dash again in his pro day. No, he did not. But ultimately decided against it. Now, I can't call him a liar, so let me stop and say just he didn't want to run the 40 again. He wasn't going to run the 40 again. He ran it. He saw what came of it at the combine, and he said, to hell with that bullshit. I'm not doing that shit again. The minute he left Indy, he said, that's the last 40-yard dash I'll ever run in my life. This sounds good, though. I decided against it because the 40 can be a bit overvalued. You don't think he felt that way the minute he ran it and they went to town on his 40? People calling his combine a disappointment. You don't think he heard all of that? The minute he ran that 40 twice, ran a 4.54 or 4.53 twice, you don't think he said, that's it, I'm not doing that shit again? He never considered running his 40 again. And he said it can be a bit, quote, overvalued, and cited top NFL wide receivers such as Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith-Njigba who didn't have blazing 40-yard dash times. That's what he's supposed to say. I can tell you right now, he isn't anywhere near as smooth as those guys. And we'll talk about Carnell Tate here in a second. But let's go ahead and stick with the Carnell Tate theme. So what I'll do is I'll play you a couple of videos, little clips of people that were in attendance. These next couple of videos, I want to say they were from David Harrison, who was there in attendance. And you can go over to his X page. There's a ton of different pages that have a lot of this readily available for you to just look at. I just took the liberty of clipping them for you if you don't want to have to go searching for these. And there's more of these. I don't need to bore you with all of those clips. If you want to go see them, they're there. But I'll give you a couple of them because these kind of illustrate why Carnell Tate, to me, isn't on the level of a JSN, not on the level of a Wilson, right? Or even a Chris Olave, some of the guys that have come out of that Ohio State program here of late that have been dynamic receivers. I just don't think he's those guys, right? Does it mean he's not going to be good? It just means he's not worth the 7th overall pick to me, all right? I want you to watch these routes. And I talked about him. Somebody asked me yesterday, they had Tate as their 3rd receiver, and he wanted to know why did I have Tate as my 3rd receiver in the draft. And I said, he's tall, he's leggy, the transitions aren't clean, they're clunky. He's not the most smooth, in and out of breaks. He's not the smoothest route runner. The speed, I think, is a bit overrated because he's a strider. He'll get, in terms of him being able to stack a DB and separate vertically, we've seen him do it on tape plenty of times. Like, I think he's much faster than the timed 40. He plays faster because if you give him a runway, if you give Carnell Tate a runway, he will run by you. especially if you're flat-footed. He will run right by you. Now, if you turn and open up and you run with him, you'll be able to stay there with him if you have true speed. But if you get caught flat-footed, if you're sitting on a certain route and you get something else, he will run right by you and you won't catch up. Okay? He has those long legs and he strides out his speed, right? Give him a runway and he's dangerous. But I saw guys on tape get in his chest. You know, so often when you watch these college receivers, one of the most frustrating things about watching college receivers is that they don't get challenged a ton because no one wants to get blown by. No one wants to give up the 72-yard touchdown. So a lot of these coverages, a lot of times they're playing shell coverage. They're playing cover 4. They're playing cover 3. They're playing cover 6. They're keeping everything in front of them. And they're giving up all this cushion and space, easy access throws. Guys are running 10 to 12 yards up the field, unmolested. They are not putting their hands on these guys. And so it looks easy for a lot of these receivers. What I'm interested in, and I had to go search out specific games where I was like, I think he's going to be challenged here. I want to see what he does when somebody puts their hands on him. And I watched a couple of games when hands were laid on him, he wasn't as clean, right? The separation wasn't there. Guys were able to challenge him and get in his hip pocket, make things difficult for him. I saw him fight through some contact at times and work his way back to the football and be tough at the point of catch, which I did like. But ultimately, I want you to watch these 2 videos that I'm going to play for you, these 2 clips, and watch these routes. They're not clean. They're not crisp. They're leggy. The transitions are clunky. He is off balance a little bit. Again, this is against air. You should look so fluid and clean. It should look easy. Watch these 2 routes that I'm going to show you here, right? This is the first of 2. So let me play this one over again. You see, when he breaks out on this route here, right? It's not a clean break. Watch. There. You see, it's like he's leaning, right? It's not a clean. I want a quick hezzy. Whop, bam, in, right? Stick your foot in the ground. There's nothing explosive or dynamic or clean about this route, right? That looks like a route I'd run in my backyard, right? Throwing a football with my son, right? That doesn't look like an NFL dig route, right? Exhibit B here, right? This is him running the go ball, basically. It's like a little fade. All right. Now, nothing really wrong. This is, I think, what he, really specializes in, getting vertical. You see these long strides, right? But look at the stem of that route, right? When he goes to step out on the toes of that defender, watch how he stumbles a little bit. Right there, right? See that little stumble? Like that, but that's what you see on tape with him, right? It's not clean. It's, again, I'm nitpicking, but that's what I do with receivers in particular. It's my favorite position to overanalyze. And when I look at Carnell Tate, I will just tell you that he is a good receiver. I think he's going to be a good pro. And he's not Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's not Emeka Egbuka from last year's draft. He's not Wilson from 3 years ago. He's not same draft with Chris Olave, right? He's not Garrett Wilson. He's not Chris Olave. He's not JSN. He's not Emeka Egbuka. Those guys are better than him. They're smoother. They're more fluid. They're more natural. They're faster, right? Even JSN wasn't the fastest. We know he plays a lot faster than the 4.52 he ran. I think Carnell Tate does play faster than the 4.53 or 4.54 that he ran. But I will tell you that it's not fluid, it's not clean, but he's got good hands. I did see a massive drop going back to 2024 against Texas in the playoff game. Wide ass open, touchdown, right in his hands, drop, right? Like it doesn't get any easier than that. And he dropped it, right? And every now and again with guys, you get concentration drops. I don't want to kill him because Jordan Tyson has concentration drops. I would like the short-handed receiver, right? guys that you just don't see that from very often. But every now and again, you're going to get a concentration drop from guys, right? Those happen. The best of the best, they don't have it too. Larry Fitzgerald did drop the football, right? Certain guys just, they don't drop the football. If it's in their hands and it's an easy catch, they're going to catch the football. But every now and again, shit happens. But with Carnell Tate, here's what I'll tell you. He's competitive. He is physical with the ball in his hands after the catch. He's not a run after catch guy. Don't look for that. He's not making anybody miss any of that. But he does run physically with the ball in his hands after he gets it. He's a guy that will, I think one of the best things I've seen from him is his ability to make himself a friendly target for the quarterback, whether that quarterback is in the pocket and he's working his way back to the football, or that quarterback has to scramble outside of the pocket and has extended the play. Carnell Tate does a great job of coming back to the quarterback or going to the sideline, uncovering and making himself an available target, whether it's by the sidelines, whether it's finding open space to make himself a readily available target for the quarterback as he's scrambling away from pressure. I think he does a tremendous job of that. Does a great job of working the sidelines, that toe drag swag that we look for with college receivers. A lot of these guys don't have the ability coming into the NFL to get 2 feet down because they didn't have to in the collegiate game. He does a great job already of getting that second foot down, dragging his feet. So I think there are some things that he does really well, but ultimately, to me, he's a guy that I look at, and I'm trying to think of a comp for him right now. Because we've seen receivers like him in the league, and they've been successful, right? He feels a lot like I'll say this. He feels a lot like a taller version, and this is why I think a lot of Commanders fans love him. He feels like a taller version of Terry McLaurin. Obviously, he's not as fast as Terry, but when Terry was coming out, he was not a polished route runner. Still, to me, isn't the best route runner in the world is Terry. That's always been something he's been constantly working on throughout the course of his career. I think Carnell Tate's hands are better than Terry's, right? But I trust Terry to catch the football more than I trust Carnell Tate does to catch the football. Even when Terry has to use his chest to body catch, I just trust Terry's going to come down with the football. I can't always say that that's the case with Carnell Tate, although I do believe Carnell Tate has really good hands. And if thrown the football in a tough situation, I do expect him to come down with it. But obviously, Tate's a taller receiver, but I think their skill sets are very similar coming out. Terry was not a polished product coming out of Ohio State. Matter of fact, we thought he was a special teams player when we drafted him in the 3rd round. We had no idea what we were getting. Obviously, Tate is a wide receiver, not as core special teamer as we thought Terry McLaurin was going to be coming into the league. But I think they have the same kind of mindset, that same worker mentality. And I think he's going to be a really good receiver, but I don't think he's of the elite group. And, we always get into these conversations about Terry, where he fits in the grand scheme of the receivers in the NFL. And I always tell you, he's outside of the top 10. And every year, guys that are more talented, more explosive, more dynamic come into the league and push Terry further back. And a lot of people get upset. Well, he's got to do it. And this, that. Yeah, sure, fine, whatever, right? I'm just talking about from a talent perspective, from an explosive, dynamic perspective, from a put a ball in his hands and watch this guy go to work perspective. Guys are just more talented than Terry. That's going to be Carnell Tate, right? It's going to be Carnell Tate. He's going to be a really good receiver. He'll be somewhere in that, 15 to 20 range, when he gets going and he gets settled into the league. But there'll always be guys that you look at and say, that guy's better than him. And again, if you're going to spend the 7th pick on a receiver, it's got to be somebody that I feel like that's a home run, potentially. Again, that ain't Carnell Tate. And I talked about this yesterday with Ruben Bain. I think Ruben Bain's has a chance to be a good football player. But Ruben Bain feels like a double. Carnell Tate feels like a double. If I'm drafting a player at 7, I want a home run or at least swing for one. I might strike out, but at least I swung for the fences. If you want to be safe, go right ahead. Be my guest. But safe isn't at the number 7 pick. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for safe. I'm looking for, and I hate boomer bust prospects, but Arvell Reese is a boomer bust prospect. There's no guarantee. He's one of the most talented guys in this draft. He could also be, we talked about this already, he could also be Simmons from the 2020 draft, right? He could also be Isaiah Simmons. People think he's going to be the next Michael Parsons. He could also be the next Isaiah Simmons. That's a boomer bust prospect. You're swinging for the fences. That's what you do at 7. Carnell Tate is a solid double. That's what you do at 17. That's not what you do at 7. That's what you do at 27. That's not what you do at 7. Moving right along. More of the Commanders. This is from our girl, Seawall Sports, Candy Waller, who does a tremendous job covering the team. She was at the pro day, and she snapped a photo of head coach Dan Quinn chopping it up with both Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles, as you can see here, right? You see Caleb Downs with his hand on his head. Right next to him is his teammate, Sonny Styles. Two guys that are going to definitely be in the mix when it comes to this Commanders team at number 7. So unlike the Carnell Tate conversation where they, were able to pull, and I'm not saying that conversation never happened with these two, but this isn't the same type of, hey, let's get him by himself and let's get, everybody, let's get the whole conglomerate around Carnell Tate and have a discussion with him versus, you're in a little bit of a scrum here, DQ's getting some information, talking to these guys, checking on them, seeing how everything's going. You're around a bunch of people. It's not the same as the shot I showed you earlier. But again, touching bases with all these guys. They went out to Columbus with the purpose of making sure they laid eyes on all of these guys and at least had some sort of conversation with all of them. I would imagine that Devontae Jones, assuming that he was in attendance, because there's actually no visual proof of him being there, but if he was there, and I assume he was, he had an extensive conversation with these guys. It would be my guess. But moving on to Arvell Reese. Matter of fact, let's stick with Caleb Downs since we're talking about Caleb Downs. Let's stick with him. All right. So these videos are of Caleb Downs. Again, opted not to run the 40, decided to do on-the-field drill. So he did some field work, didn't do any of the testing. So he didn't broad jump, didn't vertical jump, didn't do any of that stuff. He skipped out on all of that at the combine, skipped out on all of that here. It's going to allow his field work and tape to do the talking for him. And this was just a couple. And again, there are more of these clips available online. You go scouring the interweb, you will run into these clips. I just grabbed a couple of them for you just to kind of show the fluidity of his hips, how he moves on the football field. This guy is one of those players that I think is best around the line of scrimmage, but is very comfortable away from it. And I think some of these drills show you that he's got the ability to move and be wherever you need him to be on the football field. So this is the first clip here that we're going to take a look at. You saw this drill at the combine, right? Go high point the football, right? We'll take a look at this one again. All right. Run at an angle, back pedal, run at an angle, locate the football, go up and get it at its highest point, come down with it, right? And then you go to the drill right down the line, right? Back pedal, right? Back pedal, turn hips. Excuse me. So then you get to this drill, back pedal down the line, turn your hips, turn the other way, turn, locate football. I would like to see him run through that a little bit faster, but when you're at your pro day, you can do it at your speed, right? But look at the hip turn. Look how fluid that is. Look how clean that is. All right. Like this guy is legit, man. People, and I don't blame him for not running a 40, by the way, because all we were going to do was overanalyze the 40 had he run it. So let's say he runs a 4.57. We would have crucified him. Oh, he's definitely not a top 10 pick. Well, why? The tape suggested he's a top 10 pick. His football IQ and his ability to click and close, his ability to attack the line of scrimmage, his smarts, all of this suggests he's a top 10 pick. So he ran a 4.57, which is still fast for a safety. It's not blazing fast, but it's fast enough, especially when you play with the kind of urgency and the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Anticipation is the word I'm looking for that he plays with. 4.57 would be plenty fast. But again, didn't decide to run. Probably the better thing to do if you know you're not going to kill it, right? Especially at Ohio State with all these damn athletes. But he did go out and run, do the field work, and it was a great workout. By all accounts, everyone that was there said that this guy looks the part of an NFL day one starting safety, Pro Bowler by year 2, All Pro by year 3 type of guy, right? Listening to him talk, I listened to him talk a couple of times. He's so confident. All right, man, I talk about athletic arrogance, and you got to have it, right? It's confidence bordering on cockiness, but, truly believing in what you've been blessed with the ability to do. And I haven't heard anybody sound more sure of themselves and what they're able to provide than Caleb Downs. This is a guy that is going to absolutely be, to me, a stud in the NFL. There are a lot of people who liken him to my favorite player in the league. I am a massive fan of Jalen Petrie of the Houston Texans. And a lot of people comp him to Jalen Petrie. Petrie's always down around the line of scrimmage. He's always making plays on the football on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, which is when you watch Caleb Downs' film, he's constantly around the line of scrimmage. He's either blitzing or run blitzing and getting in the backfield and making plays. Can he be a little bit over aggressive in that regard? Sure. So can Jalen Petrie. Like when you're one of those type of safeties that's super aggressive, that wants to be in the mix. You know how many safeties are kind of watching the fray from afar, right? Like, hey, they got it, man. If they need me, I'm here, but they got it. They're not aggressively attacking the line of scrimmage. There's a tight end there to block them. They defeat that block, get inside of that tight end on a 3rd and 1, and that safety's in the backfield to make that 2-yard. Like, how many times did we see Jalen Petrie do that in the playoffs? He did it against the Steelers. He did it against the Patriots. How many times did we watch him knife in, beat that tight end that's supposed to be blocking him, get in the backfield, and be a part of a conglomerate that gets guys, but he's the first one there down at that running back's legs on a 3rd or 4th and 1 to stop that guy short of the sticks. Like, those are the types of players that make a difference. Caleb Downs is one of those guys. He triggers downhill, very aggressively. You can put him, in that short area, that underneath area in zone coverage, right? He's a guy that can be away from the line of scrimmage 20, 30 yards. He's not a fish out of water when you put him in those situations. He can do everything on the field that you will ask a safety to do at the NFL level. Like, I talked about the safety position being the brains of the operation, really, in this Durante Jones scheme. Like, you need the linebacker and you need the safety, that those guys down the middle of the field. They always talk about how important the nervous system of the football field is on both sides, the middle of the football field, the linebackers and the safeties on the defensive side, and on the offensive side, the center and the quarterback. Those are where the brains of the operation lie. I look at Caleb Downs, and he could absolutely be the brains of the operation here in Washington if they wanted to go that route. I endorse him as the 7th overall pick in the draft. Again, safety is one of those positions that teams generally do not value that high. So if I had to guess, I would say that he is not going to be the pick for the Commanders at 7, but I would totally endorse that. He's one of the guys that I feel like is an absolute difference maker, and he's a plug and play guy day one, and you would hit a home run, right, with him. So I think the world of Caleb Downs. After watching him on film, he just confirmed what everybody has been telling me for the last year. Every time when our season was over in October, and fans were already talking about college football and the draft, and I didn't want to hear any of that shit. The 2 names that kept coming up, the 2 names that repeatedly kept coming up over and over and over and over again were Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese. And that's where we're going next, right? Arvell Reese, this is from our girl Seawall, Candy Waller. Arvell Reese did his drills with the defensive linemen, not the linebackers. Candy always tells us, use your clues. When he was at the combine, who did he do his drills with? The defensive linemen. He did his drills with the defensive linemen again. So what does that tell you? Because he did a lot of his drills next to Kaden McDonald, right? Who is the big defensive tackle that the Commanders, and we've talked about this the last 2 days, has a top 30 visit with, right? And that's more of a trade back scenario where he would become in play. He's not in play at 71, and he's absolutely not in play at 7. So he was doing his drills with the defensive lineman, which tells you, because he has to choose. This isn't one of those situations where he's positionless and you try to figure out what to do with him. You've got to have a plan for Arvell Reese because he's raw. He's raw. Like, this is a guy that's still figuring it out as a defender. So you got to have a plan for him. This isn't one of those, oh, we'll figure out what he can do and let's get him in our building and see. No. If you're drafting Arvell Reese, you got to know, okay, we're using him as an edge rusher. Here's how we're going to deploy him, right? We'll drop him in the coverage here and there, but this is a guy, we don't want him off the ball. We want him, getting after the quarterback. So with that said, here's Arvell Reese running a drill here. We'll take a look at this a little bit. Arvell Reese getting around the bags. All right. Let's take a look at this again. All right. Arvell Reese. Look at him tiptoeing around the bag. This isn't like Ruben Bain, who's exploding around the bag, right? But this is a raw. This guy is raw, man. He needs work, but there's a lot to work with, right? Which is why you take him so early in the draft. But clearly you see a guy that isn't comfortable turning that bag, right? Look how many steps he's taken. Tiptoeing around these bags. Ruben Bain was like one big step, bow, dip that corner, turn that shoulder, dip that shoulder, turn that corner, and explode around the bag. That's not what you're seeing from Arvell Reese, right? So, again, that's to be expected. All right, this is a guy that is extremely raw, extremely young at the position. So when I watch Arvell Reese on tape, here's a guy that I feel like it has all the potential in the world. And you see the ability to dip the corner, dip that shoulder, bend the corner rather, dip the shoulder, bend the corner. He's a taller guy, right? So dipping that shoulder, bending that corner isn't the easiest when you're tall and you're angular like Arvell Reese is at 6'5", right? It's not the easiest thing to do. But if he can master that, I saw him beat tackles with just pure speed and then dipping that shoulder, turning the corner. I don't think there are a lot of similarities between he and Micah Parsons that people want to draw that direct correlation. Here's where I will tell you there's a direct correlation. His closing speed is utterly ridiculous. Okay. When you see Arvell Reese decide that I'm going to go get this guy, whether it's the quarterback vacating the pocket, whether it's a running back trying to get to the edge, and Arvell Reese decides, all right, it's time to go close the show. And he decides closing speed on and he hits the switch. Look out. There are very few in this league that have the ability to close the distance between ball carrier and defender like Arvell Reese. And I'm not talking about just this draft. I'm talking about in general. That to me is when you truly see the athleticism that he has. And if you can harness that, if you can take that athleticism, that explosion, that ability to close, if you could get him past the tackle, he will close the show because he's so explosive in terms of closing the distance between he and ball carrier. So if he can turn that corner or against the tackle, he's going to close that distance between he and the quarterback and get there. And so he's a guy that you can see he's got about 2 or 3 moves that he's developing. They need work. I just talked about that speed, dip the shoulder around the corner. You see the speed to power where he goes bull rush, and that with the length he has, that has effectiveness as well. And then he's got the little loop around move where you use him in the action, right? The twist and the stunts. He loops around, and then you see that explosion again, right? That closing ability where he's able to get downhill in immediate fashion. So there's a lot to work with. I think he's slow to process what's going on sometimes because, again, he's raw, right? So you're drafting Arvell Reese based off of traits and what he projects to be. And when you're this high in the draft, I talk about swinging for the fences. Arvell Reese is an example of swinging for the fences. Again, his floor is incredibly low, I believe, because he could not, evolve and develop into what people think he's going to be. And that pressure is enormous. Not everybody's built to deal with being the number 2 pick in the draft, as we saw with Chase Young, right? He got big-headed after his rookie season. He started talking all this shit about what he's going to do. He started big time in the team, not showing up for off-season training, going and doing all these commercials. Oh, we're going to set this record, right? And then all of a sudden, and not to mention he was already home, right? Back in his hometown. And so there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And then shit doesn't go well, right? And he's all cool and relaxed, like, yeah, I'm not worried about it, whatever. Then he gets hurt. And now all of a sudden, football don't define me, right? Because now the pressure of being the number 2 overall pick and not producing starting to get to you. Not everybody's built to be that guy at number 2 overall, especially if shit doesn't pop for you right away. Arvell Reese, we'll see how he's built mentally. Remember, this is a guy with only 1 year of true production. This guy is extremely raw. He's only been playing the position for 2 years. He's only got 1 year of true production. 6.5 sacks. That's it. But he also was tasked with doing so much at Ohio State. They didn't just turn him loose and say, go get the quarterback. This guy was dropping into coverage. He was a spy for quarterbacks a lot of times. Go watch the Indiana game. Him and Sonny Styles are spying Mendoza in that game a ton. Right? So, again, he was tasked with doing different things in that defense. He was off the ball a ton. And he still got 6.5 sacks as an off-the-ball backer. So there's a ton of upside with him. The question is, do you have the right staff? Do you have the right scheme? Can you get all of that talent and potential out of him and turn him into the Pro Bowl, all-pro player that his talent suggests he should be? I'm willing to take a swing at it if he were to fall to 7. I just don't believe that kind of talent in this league falls in the draft. Teams salivate over getting their hands on that type of talent because that's a very moldable football player. And if he's willing to put in the work, which I've heard nothing but good things about his work ethic and who he is off the field, if all that stuff rings true, I have no reason to believe that he's not a guy that's going to give you everything he's got. Somebody's going to take him relatively early, 2 or 3, right, in the draft. But I'd be willing to swing for Arvell Reese at 7 if he were to fall to the Commanders. Moving on to Sonny Styles. Last guy we'll talk about from this Ohio State, a conglomerate of prospects. Sonny Styles is, to me, the quintessential arrow pointing upward. Trajectory is through the roof for him as far as how he projects to the next level. Of all of the guys I just talked about, to me, his trajectory going into the NFL draft is the highest, right? Arvell Reese needs work, still a little bit of a project, but the athleticism is ridiculous. But guess what? Sonny Styles matches that athleticism. He's just as raw as Arvell Reese, but with way more production. And this is a guy that has safety traits because he moved from the safety position He's only been playing linebacker for 2 years. He moved from the safety position to the linebacker position. With that body type, you can't tell that he was ever a safety. Normally, when we say former safety, they look like Thomas Davis did coming out of Georgia. He looks like a guy that used to play safety. He looks like a tweener. He's 6'3", 227 pounds. That looks like a safety trying to put on some weight. He's 6'4", 218 pounds, former safety, turned linebacker. This guy's 6'4", 6'5", 245. Safety mentality in terms of, or safety movements, right? With a linebacker mentality. So he still can cover, right? He still can cover. He's a guy that attacks the line of scrimmage. I was so impressed with his ability to shed blocks and get to the ball carrier. If you want to see Sonny Styles, and I know I've brought this game up, and if you watch the game, then you already know. You don't have to go back and watch it again, but it was such a treat watching him in the Indiana game because you see everything from him basically in that game, right? Especially in terms of attacking downhill, attacking the line of scrimmage. He shed so many blocks that night. He sorted through the trash and got to the ball carrier. He was possessed that night. And you see the growth. I went and watched him in one of their earlier games in the season against Minnesota to kind of get a feel for like the growth from him from early in the season all the way to later in the season. And the growth was tremendous, right? You see a guy early in the season, a little timid, doesn't want to shoot his gun, doesn't want to fire it off, wants to be sure, right? I'm seeing what I'm seeing, don't want to take any false steps. You can tell he's thinking. By the time you got to that Big Ten championship game versus Indiana, ain't no more thinking, man. This is a run. I'm going down. I'm smacking this guard in the mouth. I'm discarding him. I'm getting to the ball carrier. He's spying Mendoza. He's forcing him to get rid of the football. I think there's a level that he can get to as a blitzer. Because I'm watching him run through the face of these running backs, blowing these dudes up, right? Knocking them back, collapsing the pocket on the quarterback, forcing the quarterback to flush the pocket because this running back can't hold his own with this 245-pound train coming down the tracks. If he ever figures out how to use his hands, how to use a spin, you know, how to give him a little dipsy-do, right? A little 1-2 step on some Sierra shit as he's coming downhill on a blitz. And that's going to come eventually. Watching him track backside of the backfield and run with them and stay in their hip pocket like it's nothing. He has elite linebacker written all over him. Written all over him. How much do you value the linebacker position is the question. How much do you value the position? Because if you value middle linebacker, Sonny Styles is the man for the job. He's the man for the job. If you truly value the linebacker position. Again, another guy that I am absolutely all in on spending the 7th pick on. Again, we're in a really good spot because at least two of these guys, at least two of them, I think Styles and Downs will be there at 7. I know Carnell Tate will be there. Well, I shouldn't say I know anything because the Browns could take Tate. The Giants could take Tate. I don't know how other teams feel about Carnell Tate. Clearly, we're smitten by Carnell Tate. I don't think we're smitten with Carnell Tate at 7, but I think if they trade back to, say, 11 or 12, I think Carnell Tate is now officially in play, right? I think Kaden McDonald and Carnell Tate in particular, those two Buckeyes, are more of the trade back variety, right? If those guys are there and the Commanders have traded back in the first round and they've picked up a 2nd round pick, I think those two guys now come into play. But if you're talking about sticking and picking at 7, to me, it's Downs, it's Reese, it is Styles. It's one of those 3 guys. And Reese isn't going to be there. There's a chance that Styles isn't going to be there. Even though I fully expect Styles to be there, there's no guarantees because he's like that. He's like that. So these Ohio State Buckeyes are talented, man. They're talented. And quickly on Kaden McDonald, watched him too while I was at it. Big, physical, defensive tackle. Surprisingly for his size, and I should have clipped the video of him. There was a video of him going through the bag drills, the ones where you chop your feet through the bags, you push the bags down, you got to go through the bags, and then you finish the drill. He got some movement skills for a big man. And I think the 9.5 tackles for loss he had this past year suggests that, right? He's not just your standard run-of-the-mill, space-eating, road grader, defensive tackle. Like, that is his primary job, okay? He had 3.5 sacks this past year. That's not what you're drafting him to be. He gets you 3.5 sacks in a season. You feel fortunate, right? His job is to muddy up the middle of the football field, free up those backers so they remain clean. And if you try to single him up on a block, defeat that guy, get in the backfield, make a play on the running back. And he does that very well. Surprisingly quicker laterally than you would expect for a guy his size. I think he plays with tremendous leverage inside, holds his ground against double teams. Again, I know why they like him. I know why they're like, if Daron Payne isn't getting after the quarterback, you can find a defensive tackle that can do all the things that Daron Payne can do. If he's not going to get you 6 sacks, which we haven't seen 6 sacks from Daron Payne in like 3 years. If he's not going to get you 6 sacks, then what are we paying you all this money for? Because if you're going to just stop the run and be available, which he wasn't even available last year, and you know, I apologize in advance because it's hard for me to let this go, and he can't control injury. But in the biggest game most of us have seen this team play in the last 30 years, Daron Payne was not available, and we had to suffer through Carl Davis playing 65% of the damn snaps. And I know you're like, Louie T, let that shit go. No, I will not let it go. So you can find a guy to do the things that Daron Payne does if he's not going to get to the quarterback. Kaden McDonald could do those things. But again, that's a second-round pick that we don't have. Okay? That is a second-round pick that we do not have at this current juncture. You move back, and maybe, just maybe, you will have one. We'll see. Anyway, I just wanted to give you guys a treat. I know there's a lot of Jeremiah Love stands out there, and so I want to foster hope. I know I've been a negative, Nancy when it comes to all of this, right? I've been a negative Nate. That's what we'll go with, not Nancy. I've been a negative Nate. All right. I've been a loser Louie when it comes to Jeremiah Love. And where's the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love, man? Where is the love? Ain't no love in the heart of the city. Ain't no love in the heart of town. Well, I'm here to spread love today. Not hate, but love. Listen to the Commanders' future number 7 overall pick talking about goals for his entire career. This is why he gets a Commander tag. Take a listen.
Consistency, discipline. Once you get to the league, don't change who you are. Like a lot of times guys get to the league and I made it. No, you haven't made it. You ain't made it past your first contract. You got to get to that. For me, I want to get to my 3rd contract. So when I get to my 3rd contract and that's over, and I've got, one day I hope I got my gold jacket. One day I've made, Pro Bowl, hopefully 5+ years. Then I think that, I've had some type of success. But those are questions that I ask going into these meetings and going into these visits, and I just want to know how I can be a better version of myself.
All right, so that was Jeremiah Love talking about what he envisions himself being at the NFL level, being the best version of himself, not ever changing, not being satisfied, just making it to the league, wants to get to a 3rd contract, which is the golden number for elite running backs. You get to a third contract, you've done something right. Most NFL running backs get to the second contract, they're washed by the time they get to the third contract. Like Ezekiel Elliott, by the time he got to that third contract, he was cooked, right? You look at Derrick Henry, that's a future Hall of Famer, right? He might get a fourth contract with the way he's playing, the way he's taking care of his body, right? He's already had 3 contracts. He's going to get a fourth based off of what he's done these last 2 years, right? That's what the elites do. They hang around. Adrian Peterson was still playing at a relatively high level for his age at the end of his career. If you're one of them ones, how many contracts has Christian McCaffrey had? This is his third, right? And he's battled through injuries, and he's still one of the best running backs in football. That's what Jeremiah Love envisions himself being. We'll see if he turns into that or not. But I digress. Let's get to the comment section, and then I will get you guys out of here. Wrath of God, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Wrath of God writes, Lou, my guy. What up, Wrath? Says, boss, not creeping. I love it. That allows you to get into some shit that you probably shouldn't be into. But I'll go ahead, keep the party going, man. Says, so if it's wide receiver, I want Lemon. Hold on. But I really want one of those blue chip guys on the defensive side. Had to sneak in one at work, 1:10 p.m., minus 13 degrees here. How do you do it, bruh? And you had another friend in the comment section of the video where we were talking about living in Alaska and how cold it is. And another guy. So you're not alone. There's someone else that watches this channel that lives in Alaska. And I don't know how y'all do it, man. Shout out to the Alaska gang, man. Aloha. Y'all, let me give y'all some aloha. Y'all could use a little bit of sunlight, man. A little bit of warm weather that ain't coming. Minus 13 degrees. Look, man, shit. We complain when it's sub 20 degrees around these parts. You talking about minus 13? What? Yeah, that's crazy, man. Blessings to you and yours, man. I don't know how y'all do it. To me, defense is the way to go if it's not Jeremiah Love. To me, the only offensive player I want at 7 is Jeremiah Love. If you can't get Jeremiah Love, then it should be defense to me at 7. Unless you're trading back, then you open up. And again, depending on how far you're trading back, then you open up a wealth of possibilities with a trade back. I don't see the trade back option presenting itself. One, I'm not sure that with the guys that are going to be available, I'm even interested in trading back. That's number one. Number two, if you're trading back, you're going to need somebody to want to come up for the pick. Who's trading up in this draft? Like, and the players that you're trading up to get, how about we just take them instead, right? Again, I think a defender at 7 makes the most sense to me. B-Bucks, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. You know what to do. Show B-Bucks some love. Welcome him with open arms. Glad to have you on board. Welcome to the squad, B-Bucks. Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, LTN, all I want out of number 7 is a superstar. That's it. That's all. That's all we want is a superstar. That's it. We ain't asking for much. Just a superstar. We got one on offense. Can we get one on defense to match? Or can we add another one on offense and have a give and go? Karl Malone, John Stockton, pick and roll type situation. Kobe, Shaq, Scotty, Michael. Can we have one of those 1-2, dynamic duo options? Either you get one of those on offense with Jeremiah Love being added in that backfield with Jaden Daniels, or you go get me the Jaden Daniels of the defense. Your choice. Pick one. Maybe they'll make the choice for us and Jeremiah Love won't be there and you got to go defensive side of the football. I'd be really pissed because there's no way you can convince me that any of these receivers are best player available at 7. You just can't convince me of that. Not this year in this year's draft. No receiver in this draft is worth the 7th pick in the draft. To me. To me. All we want is a superstar. I mean, how hard is that? It's not a tough ask. If only it were that simple, Reedy. If only it were that simple. Everybody would have superstars walking around in the NFL right now. You got to pick right. You got to find the right guy. He has to be the right fit. And you got to have the right scheme to unlock. Some guys, scheme don't matter. It don't matter where you put Myles Garrett. We're not drafting 2nd overall, though. But it doesn't matter what scheme you put Myles Garrett in. He's going to be Myles Garrett. It wouldn't have mattered wherever you put Aaron Donald. He's going to be Aaron Donald. But also, the Rams defensive coordinators were also really smart. Like, had you given Aaron Donald Jack Del Rio, he would have still been Aaron Donald, but he wouldn't have been as elite, right, from a number standpoint, because the Rams understood they're going to try and double team Aaron Donald. So, no, we're going to overload the side that he's on. So you can't just double team him. You can't. You're going to have to single him up, or it's going to put your protection at a disadvantage. You're not going to be able to get all your eligibles out in the route because we're going to put you in a stressful situation. And if he gets one-on-one, he's going to win. So there's a chance you get something elite. We get us a superstar, which is why I'm not interested in trading back. I know this isn't the draft where technically you should be able to find a superstar. Bullshit. I think there are, elite defenders in this particular draft. You can find yourself a superstar. You trade back, I think you lessen the likelihood that you find a superstar. You stick and you pick, something's going to fall to you that has all Pro Bowl type potential written all over it. Again, the draft, it's a crapshoot. We sit here and we talk about guy. The only guy that feels like an absolute lock to be good is Caleb Downs. Everybody else comes with some sort of buyer beware tag. I think Sonny Styles is another one, just because he's so raw, comes with a little bit, but he's another guy that I feel really good about. Like, there's almost no way that Sonny Styles doesn't end up being a really good linebacker in this league. It's hard for me to envision that. He's got the bloodlines. I saw him smile for the first time today. He felt like the Terminator for the first, 5 or 6 times that I saw him. Like, no smile, all business. Like, does his face even work in that manner? Does it even have the ability to turn upward? So, he's another guy that I feel really good about. But the only guy that I feel like you can't miss with him is Caleb Downs. 3 years, not one single missed game for Caleb Downs. El Capitan. He'll come right in and be the leader of your defense, day one, which we don't currently have on our defense, by the way. We don't have a leader. I think Sonny Styles would be another guy that could come in and do that same exact thing. So, anyway. Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up with rights. That's AP's job. That's exactly what he gets paid to do. Find us a superstar at 7, bro. Either that or maximize the value of that pick. You don't love what's there, and there's a chance that no offensive tackle, the worst thing that could happen to the Commanders at 7 is that no offensive lineman and no wide receiver go in front of them. We just need one. It would be beautiful if 2, right, one of each went off the board, a wide receiver and a tackle. Oh my God, that would be a dream. But the reality is no offensive lineman has to be selected, no wide receiver. And I don't think a wide receiver is going to go in front of us. But again, the Giants and the Browns are a wild card here. The Browns don't have any real receivers outside of Jerry Jeudy and shit. That should be all the more reason why you draft a wide receiver. If Jerry Jeudy's your best, you need another receiver. And the Giants got to get somebody opposite. And they don't have to do it at 5, right? They could do it in the 2nd round. Not everybody is void of a 2nd round pick like us. They can wait till the second round and get a receiver. And if they see one of these defenders as an elite player, which they should, if they see Jeremiah Love as an elite player, as they should, they could go in that direction. But the worst case scenario for the Commanders is no offensive lineman nor a wide receiver go in front of them. That means a Sonny Styles, a Caleb Downs, a Arvell Reese, like a Jeremiah Love, like all these guys could be gone. All of them could be gone. If no receiver, no offensive tackle go off the board, all of them could be gone. And all you would be left with at that point is a Reuben Bain. In that situation, get me out of here! Somebody help! So we'll see. We'll see. But that's AP's job, to figure out what's the best usage of the 7th overall pick. HK Hawkins, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. HK Hawkins writes, Styles would be a special piece for Durante's defense, in my opinion. Yeah. I think he would too. I think you can't go wrong with Styles or Downs in Durante's scheme. I think both of them would be special players in his defense. So the only thing I think is that you signed Nick Cross. Not that Nick Cross is the football savant that Caleb Downs is in terms of his football IQ, but they do similar things. I think you can do a lot of those things with Nick Cross, like playing that rover position, right? Where you kind of down by the box, being aggressive, down in that hook zone, underneath flat zones, just kind of being a sort of a robber, right? In the defense, playing top down, trying to rob something. That's what Nick Cross feels like he's going to be in this defense. That's what Caleb Downs would be in this defense. But Downs has already also shown the ability to play deep if you need him to. And so he can be versatile enough that if you want to go in that direction, you can. But yeah, Sonny Styles, boy, I would love to see them add a guy like him. We just haven't had that here in Washington. We just haven't. We've been clamoring for athleticism. When he triggers downhill, man, it looks different. It looks different. And he plays like his size. He plays true to size. You ever had shoes that fit true to size or clothes that fit true to size, right? I hate shopping online because I don't know how shit fits. I'm old. Call me old, all right? My wife calls me old all the time because my wife loves shopping online. She'll shop for clothes. I'm like, and then she gets the shit, it doesn't fit right. I'm like, that's stupid. I gotta try the shit on. I gotta make sure it fits me. Just because it looks dope doesn't mean it's gonna look dope on me, right? And I need the shit to fit true to size, right? I don't want to look at the shirt on the rack. Damn, that shit look dope. I put the shit on and it doesn't fit me the way that it looks on that hanger, right? It looks sweet on the hanger. It looks like shit on me, right? To me, I look at Sonny Styles and he plays true to size, meaning he's 6'5", 245, and he plays like it. We not tiptoeing around blocks. We taking on guards. We disposing of them. We running through the face of running backs when we blitz. We just being as physical as we can at every opportunity that presents itself. We not running away from no challenges. If we can beat a guy to the spot, we're going to beat him there. We're not Perry Riley looking for contact, right? Running the contact, even if it's the wrong way, just so we can hit somebody, right? It ain't wrong way Riley. But if violence is necessary for the job to be accomplished, then violence you will receive from Sonny Styles. I love that. You know how many linebackers we've seen here in Washington? How many linebackers I've watched come into the draft that were highly touted that really don't want the smoke with a guard that's coming off of a double team or that pulling guard or that pulling tackle? Yeah, I'm going to just try to dip this shoulder and get around him. If not, you got me. Hands up. You got me. Nah, Sonny Styles finna put his helmet right squarely dead in the chest of that damn offensive lineman. And then when that ball carrier come, get your ass out the way. Tackle. Right? tackle. So Styles would absolutely be a special piece if you were to get him. I believe that. Carve. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Carve, what are you doing? Says, what about Delane from LSU? Talked about him the other day. I did a video about his pro day. So if you want more insight on him, go watch that video. But I'll just tell you this. I'm all in if they decided to go there at 7. He makes sense. I think he's worthy of the 7th overall pick. So you got no complaints out of me. Excuse me. That is a guy that if they turn the card in with his name, got no issues with that either. He'd be an immediate day one plug and play starter. I don't foresee them going corner at 7. I don't think that's what they are going to do. I think corner is more in play for them at 71. If I had to bet money right now, corner would be the pick at 71. Because I don't think they're going corner. And I already told you, I already guaranteed you a corner is being selected in one of their first 2 picks. Assuming that they don't trade back, acquire more picks, then all bets are off if they trade back and they pick up more picks. Then I have no idea what's going to happen. Now you have a little bit more real estate to play with. They could decide the first 2 picks are, wide receiver and edge rusher, and then they take the corner at 71 still, but it's now their 3rd pick instead of their 2nd. But if they just stick and pick at 7 and 71, which is the more likely scenario that takes place when we get to late April, I think 71 is a corner, not 7. But I wouldn't have a problem if Delane is the pick at 7. I wouldn't have any problems with him whatsoever. Anyway, I digress. That's the last super chat, which means it's time for me to glide to the side and allow you guys to get back to whatever it was you were doing before I rudely interrupted you. I just appreciate y'all giving me a little bit of y'all day, a little bit of y'all time, right? Continue to support, like the video, subscribe for more great content, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. If you're watching this on playback, I'd love to read your comments and your thoughts. Leave it down in the comment section of the video. I told you I'm a lurker. I see everything. So I see your comments. And also, Commanders Kings, later on this evening, we will have so much to discuss. The Kings will hold court tonight. So hopefully you've got a little bit of time to carve out for the Kings because we are going to be live later on this evening. But for me, for now, that's going to do it for your man Louie T here on the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. Until then, you guys have a good one. Take care. Peace.